Welcome to officially the first episode of Who Done It?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited.
Oh my god, tell me about it. Right. This has been a long time in the making.
It really has. We've spent all day creating this set.
Literally,
Loads
and
of things
so
went wrong.
we're so excited to actually have done it because we have been here since you've been here since like
I've
10.
been here since 10.
I've been here since 11, about 11 actually, and it's now 5.
It is now
The whole
just gone 5.
the whole time we've literally
Trying
just
to
been
get
setting
lights
up.
to work, trying to get mics to work.
Oh.
It was just chaos.
A bit of a hassle, if I do say so myself.
Yes, but today we are going to be going over the case of Bernard Oliver.
Ooh. Now, who is Bernard Oliver? I hear you saying, well, no fear. We will explain it.
We will explain, don't you stress.
This case is actually really interesting because of how many theories were actually talked about and formed from it. Like, you just look at it. You not even look at it, but you read over it and loads of people kind of talk about it and you find so much information on it that
There's just so many
there's
theories.
so much. There's too many.
Too much to discuss.
Many.
Don't know how we're going to fit it in this half-an-hour episode, but we will. We got some details so that we know that we're getting the right information.
We
not
can't let you see.
No, it's
But
top
it's
secret.
Secret.
But they, so if you kept just glancing down, it's to double check that we're not lying to you.
Yeah.
Right, so Bernard Michael Oliver. He was a young British warehouse worker from Newsall Hill, North London. He disappeared on the 6th of January 1967.
Ooh.
And his remains were found 10 days later in the village of Tattingstone
That sounds so
in
posh.
Suffolk. I know, Tattingstone.
I'm from Tattingstone.
Other than the fact that his body had been cut and diced up into
Yeah.
8 pieces and left in 2 suitcases. Which
2?
isn't quite as posh. Why 2? I'm sure
So
it would have
that's
fit in
4
one.
pieces per suitcase.
Yeah.
So what is it? Arm, leg, ear, in one. Just, I'm trying to guess where that is. And that is also why the whole crime is sometimes referred to as the Tattingstone suitcase murder. Imagine me from Tattingstone and being like, yeah, so we're actually, it's a really small town. We're known for someone dying and being cut
dismembered.
up into a suitcase. 2
2 suitcases. It's insane. So the case received a lot of media attention when it first came to light.
I can imagine.
Mostly because the police, because they weren't able to identify him, they didn't know who this boy was. They didn't know how to identify him, so they posted a picture of his head.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's the picture. That's the picture they released to the newspapers to help identify him.
He's quite fit.
The cat. He's dead in that photo.
If there's a hole, there's a way.
Cassandra. No. Anyway, but so they've released the photograph of his head to the media to help identify him, and that's kind of why this case has so much widespread news and people looking at it, because it's like, what?
Yeah, I can imagine being like, what? So we're hearing about this man who's just been chopped up into pieces, and
his
then
face
we
is on my
see his
telly.
head in the
His
news.
head.
Not even the telly; it would be like the newspaper, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because back then it wouldn't have been.
1967, but on January the 16th.
The 16th. That's not far from my birthday. 11 days before my
It
birthday.
isn't. Oh my god. A farm worker called Fred Berge or Berge.
I don't know.
Don't know how to say his name.
Burger.
Discovered human remains in 2 suitcases left behind a hedge in a field near the village of Tattingstone, Suffolk.
Yeah, so he contacted the police in 1970, well, somewhere in the 1970s, they're not too sure, although he never made, an official statement. And, he believes to have been reported seeing, 2 unattended suitcases and a man wearing medical gloves in the Ipswich Docks area a few days before the teenager's body was initially found. But, they think that he died 48 hours before they found him.
Yeah.
Something like that. So,
Yeah, well, the police have previously said that, they believed the murder was carried out with someone, or by someone with really expert knowledge, because of the way the body was cut up, being that he was dismembered, cut into pieces, like a brownie.
Like a brownie.
So that may have influenced his statement with it, because I mean, just imagine it. You find someone.
You find there's some people out there who would fake being involved in this. I don't mean to punch you in the face. Who would fake that? They're like, oh, I saw it. This happened.
They want to get their 5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, and like by the time he made his statement, they'd already let out some of their theories and some of the details, so it could have been influenced, like you said. So we don't know how reliable his statement is.
Yeah, but just like imagine, I would think that too. If I'm one of the police and we've just had a case in, someone has reported finding 2 suitcases full of human body parts, but not even just body parts, dismembered, cut up pieces of a man.
No, I know.
You would think, surely your mind would just first go to, oh, so it's like a surgeon who did it, because no one would know how to do that except from someone who precisely cuts it up.
Yeah.
Surely.
I can imagine being cut into pieces.
That would be so painful.
Oh my god, it's like those people, you know, when they get anaesthesia and they can't, and they don't actually fall asleep.
Oh my god, and it doesn't work.
Oh,
or like, numbing.
Cringe.
Oh my god.
It makes me cringe.
No.
Yeah, the idea that I could be in an operating room on a table and like they're cutting into me and I can't move. I can't move to tell them
that you're awake and
that
you
I'm
can feel it.
And, oh,
do you know what that reminds me of my stepdad? Because none of anaesthetic works on him. He went to the dentist to get his tooth ripped out.
Oh no, that's gross.
He got numbed, and it didn't work. No amount of numbing would work.
That's
so
disgusting.
He had to go through with it. He literally was awake, fully could feel everything, and literally got his tooth ripped out. Tooth ripped out.
Stuttering and stumbling. Thing is though, I'd rather a tooth than like my organs being cut into. Imagine having a C-section with like no numbing.
Oh my god, don't.
Just cutting through your entire stomach.
That's vile.
Could never be me. Yeah, and so they, like I said, they think that he was murdered like 48 hours before they found the body, and post-mortem tests showed that he had been sexually abused.
Oh.
Although he was strangled before he died, so he died before he was cut up.
Okay, so at least he wasn't...
No, strangled before he was cut up, not strangled before he died. He died because he strangled, like he was strangled.
Well, at least then he didn't die from being cut up.
Yeah, it was a lot less...
Christ.
Yeah, it wasn't as much of a, like... Because that would have been prolonged. Like, imagine bleeding out and watching yourself bleed out and, like, watching blood pour out of your arm that's gone and while they're cutting up your legs. Like, it's awful. But at least, yeah, like I said, at least he went before he was, like, cut up, because I couldn't imagine.
No, imagine.
Yeah, and because, like we said, because they weren't able to figure out who he was, they released the picture of his face. I have pinned it up there. I've pinned up, like, the, you know, important stuff that you needed to know about. And, so when they posted it to the media, Oliver's family came through, they contacted the police, and they said, look, this is my son, my brother, my cousin, you know, that kind of thing. They all recognised him because of that. And it's just confusing, because why would they post that? Why would they... And also...
weird.
Why would it take them so long to say... Like, obviously, before they posted his face, they'd obviously said, like, a 17-year-old boy has been murdered.
Yeah.
Right? And... obviously, if it's been more than 48 hours, you're going to report your kid missing. You're going to notice that they're not home. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just it's quite a weird one.
Like, why did they have to post his face for them to be like, oh right, yeah? Because it.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, from what I've read of that, it's not like actual like anything. But my speculation is that like they must have not cared that much.
Yeah.
Because they probably only cared when they realised that everyone knew it was, because it was only a little town. Everyone probably knew that he was XYZ's son, you know, so that's why they had to come forward. I don't know, maybe they just didn't think that they wanted to pretend that it wasn't him. I have no idea, but...
Not even that, though, but what I've kind of, like, read, they think that he was murdered, or, like, around 2 days before the body was actually discovered, and they think that... it's just really strange, because they're making all these theories and they don't actually release any of the information to the public besides a picture of his deceased head.
Yeah, like it's so strange.
My head can't wrap around that, because why would the police do that?
Sorry, I'm just going to check that our mics are still recording, because it will be a pain in my ass if they aren't.
No. Hold on, it's fine.
Okay.
Are they?
We're good. I think we've got like 10 minutes left of this though for the mics. Okay.
Well then, after he was murdered, witnesses had actually reported seeing Oliver in and like around the Muswell Hill area in the time between his disappearance and the discovery of his body in Tattingstone.
Like, can I just point out that it took them so long? Like, why did it take so long for them to say, oh yeah, I saw him around the area?
Yeah.
Because bear in mind, this was after he was murdered.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange.
Like, this is in between his disappearance and the discovery of his body, though, so they could have actually like, just seen him and not realised.
And the worst thing is, it was like, hold on, I'll just explain it. So a witness said that she'd seen a man who was around middle-aged, so this wasn't Oliver.
No,
this wasn't Bernard Oliver. This was a way older man, wearing a dark trilby, whatever that is, and a long trench coat, walking in the direction of Tattingstone on the Harwich Road, carrying a suitcase on the night that the suitcases were left. So it kind of begs the question of, like, did she see the murderer?
Or was she the murderer? Haha, no.
Oh,
but,
well, that's a theory.
That's a theory. It's another one to add to the pot.
That's a game theory.
What I'm saying is this guy kind of sounds tall, dark,
handsome,
grown,
middle-aged.
It's fine, guys. I have a daddy issues.
Me too, girl. Me too.
We both do. But yeah, so like, I don't understand why didn't she just come up with that at the start? It's just, this case is so confusing.
I guess reporting it after he was murdered.
Obviously, because you're not going to know that he was murdered until you find out that he was murdered. But we're actually so in time. But yeah, so in the actual suitcases, there was like quite a few pieces of like actual physical like evidence that they found. Yeah, one of the suitcases that contained Oliver's remains had the initials PVA inside.
PVA glue.
Elmer's.
Elmer's. Sponsor me.
No, don't. It's not sponsored. Elmer's, anyways, PVA. Like, whose initials are PVA? Patrick, Valorant, Archington. That's who did it, guys. We solved the case. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. That was probably so loud. But that's it. But, and then... and a hand towel was inside one of the two suitcases, and it had the laundry mark QL42, which leads me to believe,
good sir,
that it was a wealthier person, because when you take your clothes and your things to a laundry place,
a laundrette.
I mean, it could be either. It could be a poor person or a rich person, because I mean, laundrettes are there for everyone, aren't they? Yeah. But like, I don't know. It makes sense though, a bit like, but they had the initials carved into the suitcase, or like embroidered. I don't really know. They had some way of being sure that his initials were in the suitcase. Only people that are like traveling a lot, people that are rich, were the only that could travel. And it just seems a bit like, and who makes loads of money? Surgeons. Same people they thought dissected him.
Yeah, that's true. Not even just that. But in like 67, we're talking like over 40 years.
Yeah.
Way over 40 years. Only wealthier people could afford things like that
wealthier people could afford to know how to do that. They couldn't afford it.
Not even that, but I'm guessing a trilby is something like expensive. Not even just though, but a long trench coat. Not
in those days. Poor people wouldn't be able to do that. And surgical gloves. There's twice that we've seen a statement about surgical gloves. No one poor is going to be getting their hands on surgical gloves unless they're a surgeon.
Exactly. And, I mean, to kind of top it all off, the investigation, bear in mind, it happened in 19...
We've got the theories to go through yet.
That is true.
Which is the best part, trust me.
The whole investigation,
if you haven't clicked off yet because of our waffle, you'll want to stay for the theories. They're awesome.
This is only the beginning of dessert.
Trust me.
So the whole crime happened in 1967.
Yeah.
It was then reopened, so it had closed They couldn't find anything. They had no leads. Nothing to lead on to. It was then reopened in 1977, and then again in 2012. And in 2012, a man had actually come forward saying that he'd seen 2 unattended suitcases and a man wearing medical gloves.
Like I'm saying, we've seen 2 people saying that
in the Ipswich Docks area only days before Oliver's body was actually discovered.
Why did it take so long to say something then?
All I'm saying is that it happened in 67.
You're now coming forward in 2012, a whole century's difference. I mean, it's not, but like,
it's
this
in
happened
a
in the
different
1900s.
century.
We're now in the 2000s, and you're just now coming out about this shit.
Not even just that, this was 1960s. You're now coming forward in 2010s. How old do you have to be?
Yeah.
He must have been
a child.
He must be in his 60s, at least.
No, because that's...
Or 80s.
77, 80...
Because if he'd seen that, that means he was old enough to retain the information.
Yeah, it would have been about 45, 50 years,
Let's just say he's 20-something when it happened.
He would be like 60...
He'd be at least in his late 60s.
65?
Which begs the question...
Why did it take so long?
Begs the question,
know what's right and wrong.
If you knew you saw someone, why would you not say it at the time? This is a huge case. This is a new case. I don't understand.
Do you not care about the people? Why did it take you so long?
Clicking?
Stephen!
100%.
But and then like it reopened
again. What's that? 3 times?
No. 67, 77, 2012, and 2017. 4 times this case. 4 times this case has been opened. That's insane.
That's a gang sign.
No, we couldn't do gang signs if we tried. Yeah, and then the police came forward and basically just put it out. Everyone was like, look, if anyone knows anything, like, please come forward, because they're just trying to get closure for this. They still aren't sure what happened. So my thought is, they obviously had something.
They knew.
Like, they had some sort of inkling. They had something, because they wouldn't have reopened it and continued to try and investigate so many times.
Yeah.
My experience with cold cases that I've researched, they don't reopen it that many times.
Unless there's something
to go off of. Because what's the point? It costs money to do more investigations. Exhumation and investigation costs a lot of money. Especially with the new data that we've got.
Surely they think it would waste their time as well.
Precisely. Like, they could be doing other things. There's loads of missing and dead and unidentified people. But for some reason, they brought this back 4 times to try and get to the bottom of it. Which, to me, kind of proves that there had to have been something that they were going off of.
It does rub me the wrong way. Why
did they feel they need to go over it so many times? Like, what did you miss? What are you not...
It's confusing because I've never, in the cases that I've looked at,
Sorry, I was just checking the mics again. We've got like 2 minutes.
It's okay. I've never seen a case being opened this many times after it has been happened.
No, that's my
I've only
point.
ever seen it been opened
once, maybe twice.
At a push, twice
Never
afterwards.
4 times.
Let's use the, Madeleine McCann case, for example.
That was only opened twice. The 3rd time has literally just been with the new...
information that's come out,
the new girl that pretended that she was Maddie or thought she was Maddie, and then the DNA proved otherwise. But that's still only the 3rd time it's been opened, and that is like one of the biggest cold cases in the world. Everyone knows Maddie.
Not even in just the UK.
Everywhere. Everyone in the world, unless it's like obviously a 3rd world country where they're not, as developed. But most people in the world know who Madeleine McCann is and have a theory about it. Do you know what I mean? This, I didn't, no one knows about Bernard Oliver. Just a 17-year-old boy from Tattingston that was dismembered in a suitcase. Why has it been opened so many times? There had to have been something there for it to want to be opened. They had to have something there.
The thing is, I'd never heard of Bernard Oliver before this. So they've kept it under wraps. Because how is it going to be opened 4 times? Or technically reopened 3. And no one has heard of it. This is the main theory.
This is the most exciting part, honestly.
I know.
You guys are going to love it. The theories are the best bit.
Right. So we're kind of going back. Obviously, we'd said that it had reopened 2012, 2017.
Yeah, it just doesn't make much sense.
Like that. In 2004, documents were actually released under the Freedom of Information Act 2000.
Yep.
was revealing that the prime suspects in the murder were 2 medical doctors, Martin Reddington and John Biles. You had said Biles.
It's kind of like piles. Things you get on your ass if you
John
push too
Piles.
hard. When you give birth, you get them. You have to cut them out.
But we had said medical gloves, surgical experience, surgical knowledge, cutting them.
It adds up, people.
Yeah.
It's adding up.
Yep.
Right. So, Martin Bruce Reddington performed a surgery in Muswell Hill in 1965, right?
Yeah.
So, he's obviously around the area.
This was before the murder took place.
2 years before the murder took place. A warrant had been issued for Reddington's arrest on charges of buggery or sodomy and indecent assault on males. However,
he's a wrong one.
Before the inquiries could be completed, he left the UK and fled to South Africa. And because he didn't have any charges yet, they couldn't stop him.
Yeah. And now he'd actually made several return visits to the UK, but no evidence has actually been found placing him as the murderer, which is quite annoying.
Yeah.
But
obviously,
in 1977, 10 years after the murder took place, when it was first reopened, a private investigator, so a PI, claimed to recognise the suitcase with the initials PVA on its side as belonging to not 1, not 2, but 3 men who used a laundrette in Muswell Hill, like you said.
Ironic that there was the laundrette and the towel and all these initials, because if you look at it, it's just, we'll get to it, don't worry.
And one of the men, could you guess, was Reddington. And now, he was never actually interviewed in connection with the offence, but it was decided that there was insufficient evidence to extradite him from Australia, which is really bloody annoying.
Because he ended up in Australia after several visits to him from South Africa. He ended up in Australia.
Yeah.
And because there wasn't enough evidence to actually prove it was basically just word of mouth.
Yeah, it's always going to be like that, though, stuff
with
like
these
this.
cases, after a certain amount of time, it just becomes word of mouth.
And then,
they didn't want to bring him back because they didn't think there was enough evidence. And if they did bring him back and there wasn't enough and he didn't get charged, he can then sue.
Yeah, if they don't have enough evidence, that's like falsely accusing,
which
is
they
a
can
crime.
get in trouble for,
Yeah, exactly. And then in 1977, he was charged in Sydney with committing indecent assault on a male, so kind of biting him back in the arse. But then...
See, the only thing here is this. He's consistently been accused of assault and indecent assault and any sort of sexual assault, I guess, to males. And poor Bernard Oliver was tragically sexually assaulted before he died.
Which kind of puts it like there's a pattern here. But they couldn't really do anything more than that because he'd actually died in the May of 1995, aged 63. So it was reopened before he died, but they found out the information, I'm guessing, connecting him to it when it was reopened.
See, they never really connected him to it because legally they can't, but this is just like that he was one of the suspects that
if you look at it,
spoke to.
You can connect it.
That's the thing. A few of these people... Right, we'll get to my theory. When we're done explaining all of the possible answers.
Oh, I'm itching.
I know, it's so great. Okay, so John Russell Biles. I don't know how to say his name. Russell. He is the second potential suspect. He was acquitted along with another man in November of 1963. So that's 4 years before the murder. Of assaulting a 16-year-old male at their flat in Earls Court, which is in London. So Biles left the UK also for Australia in the early 1970s. So that would have been 3 years after the murder, right? 3-ish years. When inquiries started to begin with sexual abuse between the boys aged 9 and 14.
Oh my god!
In Huddersfield. So they were inquiring about people that had been sexually assaulted or abused because obviously homosexuality at the time was not, wasn't. It was allowed, but it wasn't accepted. And then 17th of December 1974, he was arrested also in Sydney Ironic that they were in the same place. In relation to an alleged indecent assault on a boy, but he was absconded on a $2,000 bail. So he got out on $2,000 bail.
Oh my God. No, there's so much connecting it. So they both sexually assaulted males. They both ended up in Sydney, Australia,
and
arrested and charged
with something.
They run away from something.
Just move to across the world.
And it is genuinely across the world.
It really is.
Because
the other side of the world. Australia to London. I've flown there. It took like 26 hours with layover for like an hour each time.
Literally.
It's
like
insane.
Now, his body was actually found...
The body of John Russell Biles?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Was actually found in a room of the Prince of Wales Hotel in Proserpine, Queensland.
Which is also in Australia.
Queensland, Australia.
Australia.
On the 19th of January, 1975. Now, this is before it was reopened again.
Yeah.
And he left 2 suicide notes. Now, why 2?
Why 2?
Well, one was addressed to Scotland Yard, and the other was to Reddington.
Yeah, Martin Bruce Reddington, the guy we just spoke about, who also went to Australia and also got in trouble for assaulting males.
So...
Yeah, he sent a suicide note to him.
Which kind of begs the
question,
one to
Scotland Yard.
What is going on?
Yeah.
The note to the police contained an apology for his actions, but no direct reference to the Tattingstone murder. Now, apologising for his actions, that's just meant that he genuinely was guilty for sexually assaulting people. But the thing is, it kind of makes me laugh. Well, how can you go and sexually assault young boys and then go...
A 16-year-old boy.
And go, I'm so sorry.
I know. Forgive me, please.
I'm so sorry.
It doesn't work like that.
No. You don't just get a slap on the wrist for sexually assaulting someone.
The fact that he got away on a $2,000 bail.
I know.
And then admitted to it. What?
You know, if he was in America, he would have been charged more for, like, drinking underage.
It's so insane.
Actually, no, in America
UK,
now.
Do you want to know something really funny? In the UK now, you get more time in prison for being a drug dealer than you do for being a paedophile.
How disgusting
or
is
a rapist. I would much rather live next door to someone who sells weed than someone who rapes kids.
Yeah.
Just saying. Just saying.
Would you rather live right next to, let's go out there actually, a heroin dealer, or a boy who fiddles kiddies?
Definitely not the boy who fiddles kiddies. Sorry, I'm just making sure that everything's still plugged in. Is it all good? I believe so.
Are the cameras all right?
I believe so.
All right.
We're just going to have to guess, because I don't know where my phone's gone, but yeah.
It's just a little
bit...
Make it work. Suspicious. It's a little bit suspicious.
Hold on, we'll pause and I'll cut this up, but I need to find out where my phone is so I can see the timer.
Where's your phone?
I've got it ready. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, it's just a bit suspicious, to be honest. Yeah, so Reddington and Biles are also said to have been suspects in the murder of a boy in London in 1973.
What a surprise.
So that was also 4 years before... Yeah, that was 4 years before the actual Bernard Oliver case where he was found.
Yeah.
I believe 10 years after he was involved in the assault of a 16-year-old male. Following, well, the whole point of this was that they were suspects in the murder of a boy in London following an apparent homosexual relationship, because at that time homosexuality was only legal between 2 consenting male adults 21 and above. So because the boy was 16, well, no, not 16, sorry, he could have been any age, but he was underage.
No, do you know what's... I've kind of realised they would have been thrown in prison more likely for being in a gay relationship under the age of 21.
More than the murder.
More than sexually assaulting little boys.
Sorry. What was this world?
UK law.
What was the world?
And there was also another suspect.
Is this the last suspect?
Yeah.
It is. Okay.
Called a man named Joe Meek.
Meek.
Joe.
Do you reckon he was a neek? Do you reckon it was an egg?
Joe
I
Meek
think
the
it was
Neek.
an egg. Meek the Neek.
Meek the
Sorry, that's just so fucking, that's so perfect. Okay, so Joe Meek was a record producer and songwriter who ran a recording studio at 304 Holloway Road, Islington in North London. Police in the Oliver investigation. Whoa.
Investigation.
English, guys. It's been a long day. Police in the Oliver investigation announced that they intended on interviewing all homosexual men in London. Because obviously he'd been assaulted. And, you know, it was just okay to be gay. So not many people were out. And the people that were going to be doing this sort of stuff were probably people that were out and known. Yeah? So, as I said, they planned to interview all homosexual men in London, which I think would have been hard. There's a lot of gay men in London.
Not only hard, but this would have included Joe Meek. And it also would have included
Reddington and Biles because they had been past connected to case of sexual assault with males.
Suspected homosexual activity with each other as well.
Yeah.
In a homosexual relationship. And if he's interviewing all of them, kind of adds on to it.
Kind of makes sense why they left.
Yeah.
And both went to Sydney, Australia.
Following a 1963 conviction for opportuning for immoral purposes in a public toilet.
Yeah, basically that means he got his ding-a-ling out for like not going for a piss.
I'm so sorry. He got his little willy out in a portaloo. What's going on?
No, it might not have been a portaloo, just a public toilet. But it's just a bit funny that it was like for immoral purposes. Like, is it against the world's morals to be gay?
Apparently so. Arrest me.
For
honestly.
real, take me away.
Some accounts actually claim that Meek was afraid of being questioned, and it was actually rumoured that Oliver had worked as a tape stacker in Meek's studio. On February the 3rd, 1967, Meek killed himself after murdering his landlady, Violet Shenton. Now, Violet Shenton sounds like she slayed every day.
For real,
so,
she seems like the kind of girl that would just like walk into any room and be like, you, go get me a coffee, a sandwich,
she sounds
sit and read my paperwork.
So amazing. And
I want to be
this
her.
poor woman, honestly, rest in peace, because it was it was his landlady. What's she done?
Maybe she tried to kick him out. Who knows? Maybe she was a bitch.
Now, I think it's time to discuss. That's the main story.
Properly, what we think happened. Okay, so do you want to go first or should I?
I know you've been itching.
I've been
So you'll do it.
itching.
All right, go.
I've been itching.
You do it.
Okay, so are you ready? Okay. I don't think Joe Meek was involved. I think that they kind of put him as a suspicious sort of person because of he had similar things.
He was involved
around the area. You
yeah,
know?
he wasn't only involved with. Well, they said that it was rumored that Oliver had worked in his studio. So
but Oliver would have been 17, so he would have only been there for a little while. And I don't know. I just don't think. I don't know. I think they put him in the suspect list because he murdered someone, and because he was a homosexual man. And
interviewing other
because
homosexual men.
at some point, he had been in contact with Oliver. And also that he was importuning for immoral purposes. But I think, okay, are you ready? This is going to be great. So I think it was John Russell Biles and Martin Bruce Reddington. Let me explain. So obviously we know that they both went to Sydney, Australia. They both fled around the same time. And why? Why would Biles, in his suicide note, address one all to Reddington? Like, why would he do that? How would he even know who Reddington is? They weren't connected in any way. They're not. They might have been friends. They're not like. How would they have known each other? And why would he put a suicide note not to his family, not to his friends, not to potentially his kids if he had any, only to Reddington and Scotland Yard?
And the information that we have here. Information about his note to Reddington was never revealed. It says here that it was the only thing that they could see.
Because it was addressed to him in suicides, that can be seen as a form of will. They can't legally open it unless, it's addressed to them. It's against the law.
And so the only person that has seen that letter was Reddington.
Yeah.
And that has never been disclosed to the public ever.
I dropped my pen. No! But it's just weird. I just feel like PVA, they said, was connected to 3 men who used the laundrette. One of them was Reddington. You know, I just think, Reddington was a surgeon.
Yeah.
So Reddington would have been able to say, my theory, okay, I'm going to lay it down blunt and straight. Reddington and Biles were in a relationship. They'd solicited with Bernard, and because he was underage and, you know, all that sort of stuff, they decided to kill him to cover their asses. And I think they both took their turn sexually assaulting him, unfortunately. May he rest in peace. Terrible, awful thing. And then I think Bruce Reddington. No, I think probably John Russell Biles strangled him. I think it was probably an accident. I think they were probably being rough with him while, you know,
doing the deed.
I think at some point they were probably doing the deed with him. Bernard started to realise that weren't what he was here for. He didn't want that. They got a bit too rough and strangled him accidentally, because we all like a bit of strangling. We all like a little bit of a
not gonna out
chokey
myself,
choke.
But
We all do. Let's be honest. If you don't, good for you. But like, we all do.
Don't lie to yourself, babe.
It's
Everyone
nice,
does.
okay? And yeah, I think maybe that was taken too far, and unfortunately he died. And then in an effort to try and cover themselves up, Martin Bruce Reddington dissected the body, put it into suitcases, and they both fled to Sydney, Australia. That's my plans. And then they obviously split their separate ways in Sydney, Australia, because Reddington was found in Queensland.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's quite good, actually. I could see.
Martin Bruce Reddington was found still in Sydney, I believe, when he died. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just makes a lot of sense that they were somehow connected to each other.
That's a good theory.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Because they were dating, they were doing their business with this little boy, and who knows, Bernard might have wanted it to start off with. It might have just been a horrible attack that had gone too far. I don't know.
I have a theory.
Go on. I'm listening.
So, obviously, this was a different time. I'm thinking this is 1967. This is
I didn't want that bottle anymore, so
This is 1967. It's a very different time.
Oh, yeah.
Crime isn't as rampant as it is now. Thinking now, 2023, 1967, it's very different. It's a lot more out there now. Everything
I'm getting
was
comfy so that I can listen to her.
That's okay. Everything was concealed. Nothing was talked about because it was considered, you know, just safe. All the streets were safe. There was nothing going on there. Obviously, homosexuality was never talked about.
Yeah,
nothing like that was talked about. It was taboo. It was taboo. You don't talk about it. I'm gonna be honest. I still don't know what that word means, but
taboo is like unheard of. It's like ghastly.
Yeah, it was a very taboo subject. Anyone who brought it up, they'd be like, "Get away from me." So
unless they were cool like us.
I have this theory that, so obviously Biles and Reddington, they were two medical.
No, but
men.
Reddington wasn't.
It says there were two medical doctors, Biles and Reddington.
Are they both medical
Yeah.
doctors?
So my
they
theory,
were both surgeons.
So my
oh
theory.
my god, I didn't even realise that. That makes my theory even better.
They rumoured to be in a relationship together, a gay relationship. Because it was a different time, this is how I'm linking it here. Oliver might have been very impressionable. Because it was so different, nothing was talked about. It was always considered safe, you know, nothing to worry about, etc., etc. He's a very young, impressionable boy.
Impressionable. It's like a really shit superhero. Impressionable.
I feel like he was groomed.
Yeah,
by
100%.
Biles and Reddington. Yeah. They would have come up to him being like, just talking, conversation, because in that time it's like, oh, it's two friendly men.
Yeah.
It's fine. You know, they're just trying to look out for me, but, you know, and I have a feeling they were like, Oliver, do you want to, or Bernard, would you like to meet up? You know, we can teach you how to, because we're both doctors, we can teach you how to do this, we can do that. unfortunately, Bernard would have gone with them.
Yeah.
And kind of like your theory, sexually assaulted him. But I believe that either...
Do you think they meant to strangle him and kill him, or do you think it was an accident and a cover-up?
I've kind of got two different theories.
Right, okay.
But they're kind of...
Start the same, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just say the one that I think makes more sense in my head. I feel like they met up. Bernard Oliver had found out they were in a homosexual relationship and threatened to tell the authorities.
I didn't even think of that.
Because...
Or maybe like he saw them kissing or something and was like, oh, you freaks, blah, 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 blah.
Because even though they were, we have no idea how old Biles and Reddington were. They obviously were middle-aged, but it's still, like, if you see homosexuality in public, it might be legal within two consenting adults in private, but in public you will not be allowed to show that. So
it's
Oliver,
not like if you could walk down the street and hold hands with your boyfriend as a girl, that as a boy you'd get looks, you'd get people shouting at you, because lots of people at the time still didn't agree. It's a hate crime. Yeah, people still wouldn't agree. Crime. And I feel like Oliver would have threatened to tell the police, being like, look, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm going to go to the police about this. And I'm going to get your surgical rights taken away.
Because I'm pretty sure if they found out to be gay, they would have lost their jobs.
Oh, 100% they would have.
So
because no one's going to want, at that time, not a single person wants a surgeon that is...
Exactly. Who would want a doctor who was homosexual that was seen as, oh, get away from me. So he threatened to tell the authorities, and in a split second of, no, you fucking won't.
No, you don't.
Unfortunately, they...
had their way with him.
I'm guessing knocked him out.
No, he was strangled.
Yeah. Grabbed him, had their way with him. Not meant to strangle him, just be like, this is what we would threat.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like, you tell the authorities, we will do much worse to you.
Yeah, it's like this is going to put you, it's a bit of a silencer, isn't it? Sort of thing.
Yeah, like, this is what we're doing now because you're threatening us. If you actually tell them, it will be much worse for you. And
or it'd be like, now you're the freak sort of vibe. Now you're the fag.
Exactly.
I'm allowed to say it, and bye.
You have just had a man inside of you.
Like, that now you're part of the community.
That makes you homosexual.
So if you now go and say something, we'll turn it around and say, well,
you had sex with two grown men at the age of 17. That
makes you a freak.
That makes you basically guilty, because you can only be homosexual over the age of 21 consenting, and he was 17 years old. So I'm guessing they accidentally strangled him, and
had to cover it
worse is to worse. Two medical doctors, cut him up, sent it away, and then obviously they moved away and everything like that. And that's just that. There are a lot of theories to it, though.
What a case!
Tell me about it. Honestly,
oh freaking case.
There was so many attempts to find the person who killed him, and that's just, it's mad, actually.
Yeah, like, be sure, like, definitely let us know who you think did it, or if you've got any other theories or whatnot. Like, definitely let me know, because I like hearing what everyone else's opinion, because everyone has different opinions on stuff like this.
We can't wait.
We cannot wait to see what you all think.
But we might never know who did it.
We may never really know.
Who put Bernard in the suitcase?
Who did it? Who done it?